Hey everybody. So welcome to our latest TV update. We're still running through Tokyo Vice. And as we're hitting episode 4 of season 2, it's becoming very clear to us this is definitely one of TV's underappreciated gems right now that you should definitely tune into if you haven't already.
It's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And here we're going to break down non-spoilers episodes 3 and 4, which are they're kind of a nice sandwich to watch together if you're not catching them weekly and you're a bit behind. Watching these two kind of back to back has a very nice flow. So, starting with episode 3, uh we get way more into the personal lives of our characters, but specifically how they're trying to balance work with their personal business, but their personal business also tapping into their work.
Well, because it's the perfect the way the narrative is going. It's the perfect example of what people mean when they say entanglements, right? So, the problem here for our main character Jake, and for other characters, Samantha, the club owner, for Jake's editor, is that they can't really separate their personal lives from their work, because the work is so consuming. Well, Jake is a journalist who's getting involved with this woman who's connected to the Yakuza underworld that he's been covering.
Not only the
Yeah,
Yakuza, but kind of the big bad
yeah,
of the series, Tozawa.
exactly. He's involved with his woman, his mistress, basically. And then by the same token, Samantha's involved with another Yakuza. And it's almost like they cannot separate themselves ever. These are not the kind of characters who work a 9 to 5 and then go home and leave work out the door. But then,
But the thing is,
yeah,
they try to, right? And we start
uh,
to see that in episode 3. In particular, I'm thinking of Sato and his brother, right? He does his best to run this side hustle with his younger brother who's in college, but as we find out, when you're in the yakuza life, it doesn't matter
well,
how hard you try.
because whatever the problem, yeah, like because his main problem is what he does with his brother. The tragedy is that because the things they know how to do just link naturally with what the Yakuza are looking for, right? So his brother starts running a kind of well, I guess you could call it a sneaker business online, but it's a kind of a smuggling shoe business on the this is the early days of online shopping, because as you remember, the show is set in 1999. So one of the big Yakuza gangsters, well, the hothead, right, that he's trying to
Hayama,
he,
who he, as we'll get to in episode 4, he does not know how to control himself.
when he sees what they're up to online, it's like a revelation for him. It's like, wait, so you can make how much money in minutes selling stuff here on online? So of course he's gonna start luring in the younger brother to show him around to try to seduce him into the Yakuza world. He takes him to like a brothel, right, where
Yes,
he helps, well, he helps him get serviced. And
but
so,
also
yeah,
to keep a leash on Sato,
of
right? It's
course.
like he's kind of holding the brother hostage. And he even Sato, even in episode 4, uh, they go on a little expedition together, Sato and Hayama, and Sato says, "Please leave him out of it," and Hayama basically says, "No."
Oh, well, because yeah, how it's that what everyone kind of knows about these gangster underworlds, right? That once you're in, it's just when you think you're out, they pull you back in, and it's
Oh,
the
this is
same
even
old question.
worse. Just when you think that you're not even
Yeah,
in it,
yeah, like
you're in it,
you're in it.
right?
And it's the same thing for Jake. Jake is kind of deluding himself into thinking he can have a regular kind of lovey-dovey dating life with this girl, and she's his plus one at a function at the US embassy, and when she runs off because something scares her off, or when she disappears for a few days, and he tries to reconnect with her, he talks to her the way someone who likes someone tries to talk to someone who just, I don't know, hasn't texted back in a few days or something. But he's like not processing that it's not normal dating. Like, dude, you're connected. You're trying to date. You're falling in love with this girl who's connected to a
A
cutthroat
bad guy, like a
cutthroat gang
real
lord.
bad guy. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, they have secret rendezvous, right? That's the only
yeah,
way that this relationship can sustain itself,
but
which it can't. But the
right,
other thing too is we have to remember Jake is also facing the repercussion of his professional actions. We see that the leader of the biker gang,
gets arrested.
gets
Yeah,
arrested, even though he left out the names. Journalism, yeah, when you're dealing with real shit for all intents and purposes, people are going to get hurt. And he begs Sato in episode 3 if he can look out for him, the biker, except ultimately that means that now the biker who was just kind of this ruffian is probably going to be recruited into the Yakuza too.
well, yeah, and this one, Jake, he also agrees to who is his sister, to take her in, and all this stuff. So yeah, he's facing the consequences of getting so deep involved in the stories he has to cover. And of course, because what he's covering, it's not your run of the mill stories. He's covering crime. He's covering these nefarious. One, in the case of these bikers, they're not as dangerous as the yakuza, but they're still part of a risky world, and so
Yes.
it's a risk to get involved with them. And so now he has to kind of face the consequences of that. Um, and then in episode 4, it all starts culminating, because episode 3 ends with, let's just say, a pretty important revelation that then has even bigger consequences in episode 4. Let's just say someone comes back, and it's going to have major implications for what's going to happen to Jake, what's going to happen to his girlfriend, what's going to happen to the whole Yakuza network
To
that we've been
Chihara,
following. Yeah,
and the way that the police are taking them down, because as we also see in episode 3, a couple major things happen. One with Samantha, she makes a deal with Chihara. We're not going to get into super specifics because we're non-spoiler, but it's kind of a make or break deal.
yeah.
And because there are 6 episodes left, we can only imagine that that does not go down very well. And the
Yeah.
police start using, let's say, they start finding loopholes in the law to take down the Yakuza.
Well, because here's the thing. What I love about the writing here, and you see it in Samantha, you see it in Jake, you see it in even the editor of the paper where he works, because she's the one who seems to be getting into just like a normal, kind of healthy, uh, uh, not relationship yet, not quite, but getting to know each other. Let's say she's starting to meet someone, and they're hanging out. Um, but the thing here is, everyone kind of feels or sounds like they think they can outsmart or outrun the world they live in. And as the story progresses, it's becoming obvious that Jake is just being kind of delusional about thinking he can have this relationship and not have to bear the consequences of this girl's connection to the Yakuza. Samantha thinks she's going to be able to run her club eventually without any interference from the Yakuza, or not, hopefully not owing them too much. And that's clearly not going to be the case. I mean, even in Samantha's club, there's this. That you really see it come to the fore in episode 4. One of her girls is
Erica
Erica's dating this or starting to get close to
Sato.
Sato, and he was also involved with Samantha at one point. So now the girls are starting to talk with each other about, why didn't you tell me about this? Um, is it okay? and that's probably going to bear consequences also later. So, um,
The
yeah.
personal, yeah, that blurred line, not even blurred line, it's this amorphous, let's say, concentric circle of personal and business, and all these characters really thinking that they can hold the two at bay. And you think that they might be able to. They seem fairly well adjusted, but as we see going into episode 4, things are going to crash and burn, and not even crash and burn. Their whole worlds are going to be set on fire,
Well,
essentially.
in episode 4, uh, Jake, being the reporter, is starting to get more of an inkling that things are going to get more dangerous. His girl makes a stark revelation to him that he needs to really take seriously. But then by the end of the episode, let's just say several things culminate. The hothead that we've been talking about finally really crosses a red line. There's a sudden, let's say, coup that goes on within the Yakuza world. So there's a push
Let's
that
say a
happens.
very grave
Yes,
push.
a very grave push. So by the end of episode 4, we get those great twists where a lot of things finally get turned upside down in a way where
Well,
we
what
can,
the hell's going to happen next? You
yeah,
have an
yeah.
idea things are going to get worse, but what I liked about the show is some of those revelations and twists I didn't really see coming. I thought they were going to play out in different manner, but this show says no, no, the real world, uh,
They're more complicated
more
than we like to
complicated,
admit. The
and with Samantha too.
That was a really good twist, and when you see what we mean. That was a fantastic twist. Jake is the only one where his kind of semi twist in this episode, because he's surely going to go through a lot more as the season progresses. But what happens to him in this episode is one of those cases where you're sitting there like, well, yeah, man, what do you think was gonna what did you where did you think this was all gonna go? What the big question is, how's he gonna handle it? How's he gonna untangle himself from the web he has just stepped into?
Indeed. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, in the middle of the episode, when one of the macho reporters meets the U.S. Embassy guy,
Mm,
they they explain how, at least in Japan, the importance of separating work, personal stuff, and, well, being at the bar. That there's a reason that, at least in Japanese society, each space you're in is its contained world. There's a very good reason that.
well, but that's the same anywhere. I mean, I hear it's what's that saying? Don't shit in your sandbox. It's that idea of how to separate the personal from work, and especially how to well, say people who don't date in the office or people who don't date at work. It's but in the case of Jake, that rule applies more sensitively because he's involved with incredibly nefarious figures. He's involved with incredibly dangerous people. So yeah, it's probably exciting and cool to date someone from that world, but now he's gonna bear the
Oh,
consequences of it.
same with
Yeah,
Katagiri.
yeah, yeah,
He's left with some pictures, which, you know,
yeah.
we'll leave it
We'll
like
leave it at that.
that.
Yeah.
But one other thing I'd like to add is 4 episodes in, this show is so beautifully crafted and put
Yeah.
together. It's, I mean, that kind of lush cinematography. I even paused it at certain points, and I think a lot of filmmakers, even working with A24, need to understand. Yeah, it's really nice to have great lighting and great locations, but static backgrounds aren't interesting. What
No.
makes this show so great is there's a lot of shallow depth of field, but in the background there's always some interesting wallpapers, some the city lights in the background, movement in the background.
Well, because you get the sense of Tokyo as a place, and as a place that's always moving, and as a place where there's always something happening, and um, you know, as we brought up many times, it's executive produced by Michael Mann, so it's got that nice Michael Mann sheen to it, where the city itself becomes a character, and that's something that really makes the show stand out from your average procedural or even newspaper TV show. This one just has a wonderful, rich style to it. But yeah, Tokyo Vice, keep tuning in. It's so good. Can't wait to see how the rest of the season pans out. I don't want to make any bold predictions, but I will just say I don't think things are going to work out between Jake and
I
his
don't
love
think
interest.
this is a
Yeah,
show about happy endings.
yeah. No, yeah, I think some of these characters are going to meet some pretty tragic uh, uh, endings, but I don't know. We'll
We'll
see.
have to find
We'll
out.
have
We
to
have
find out.
6 more episodes. I'm very intrigued where things are going to go. I have a feeling that when the season ends, I think there'll be dead bodies.
Of course, it's a crime show. Of course, it's gonna be. The question is, who will be the corpses? That's the big question. Who is going to end up shish kebab at the end of this series? Um, Real thrilling stuff. Tokyo Vice. Keep tuning in along with us. Meanwhile, check out our YouTube for our recaps of True Detective, Night Country, and it's been a while since we've been in the booth, so if you check out our Spotify and Apple Podcasts soon, we're going to have a really fun rundown of Mr. and Mrs. Smith as Do We Recommend. We dive deep into the series, we dive deep into millennials and the way we handle everything from economics to marriage these days.
But if you want to get a preview on our early thoughts, we do have a kind of breakdown of the first episode. So that will kind of whet your appetite. And yeah, we're just in the midst of editing of this episode. We go through the whole show, break down each episode, and why the show is so special. And I think why, as the year goes by, people will discover it for how good it really is.
And
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, Chronicles of Man final episode is going to be coming up soon. We're finally going to wrap that up with just our final rundown of Man's late work.
let's just
Um,
say we'll give you a sneak peek at the title. It's about his underground digital revolution. Hmm?
so for you manophiles out there, you kind of know what we're going to be diving into. Stay tuned for that, and of course, we're gonna see what we catch now that the film the movie season is gonna finally start to pick up a bit.
Yeah, Dune Part 2.
Dune Part 2 is coming out, but as we've been saying for the last month or so, TV's kind of where it's at. So
It
we've
is.
also got a lot of big TV coming up. But as always, just stay tuned for all of that. Like us, subscribe, recommend us, share us, send us your likes and dislikes, put your ratings there. Give us those full 5 stars, follow us on Letterbox. Um, Send us your comments,
And
uh,
sponsorships too.
sponsorships, sponsorships, comments, obsessions, hate, love, all of it. And we will reply ourselves.
Till next
Thank you
time,
very much.
everyone.
Yeah.
Peace.